It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman, and here to talk about our book, which I love this title, Live Big, Love Bigger, Getting Real with Barbecue, Sweet Tea, and a Whole Lot of Jesus. Kathryn Whitaker, thanks for being here.
I'm super happy to be here. Thanks, Kyle.
I think this is the first book title that I've ever seen the word Lotta, L-O-T-T-A, in the title.
I thought you were going to say barbecue, but I'll take Lotta. That works too.
Yeah, a whole lot of Jesus. So how many Texas flags do you own?
Well, official flags that have flown over the state capitol, 2. But we have a few more than that. Oh, yes. It's a big deal in Texas.
How do you get those?
So I got one of them because that was the day that I served as a legislative page, and then another one was for my birthday. My parents got that for me. My mom's a former Texas history teacher, so that's just kind of what we do in our family.
You guys are just so Texas, which I feel like is pretty typical. I've got in-laws in Texas, and very passionate about your state.
We sign an oath. You didn't know that? Like when we're born, we sign an oath to love Texas forever. So that's just the rule.
When you're born?
Yes.
On the day of my birth, I signed a document, full knowledge. So how would your friends describe you, Kathryn?
Probably as approachable, sassy, and faithful.
That's a pretty powerful combination. Would you say that your personality caused you to resist Catholicism or embrace it?
I guess I'm going to say I was probably more like Switzerland. I was curious about Catholicism. I didn't have any bad experiences with Catholicism growing up Protestant, but I was very curious about when I would meet people. I always had a lot of questions for them because for me it was a very intriguing part of the Christian faith, and I wanted to know more about it. And then I met a cute boy, and all bets were off. But I think that would probably sum it up.
So what prompted your conversion? Was it your now husband?
Yes. So I met him on a blind date at Texas A&M. He had really pretty blue eyes. And I thought, well, I mean, he's Catholic. Surely I can try one more church. And I kind of fell in love with him and the church at the same time.
What was it about the church? I'm a little less interested about what was so fascinating about your husband, but what was it about the church that attracted you?
I think I was really intrigued by the liturgy. So for me, it was really beautiful and it had purpose. I mean, I have been a member of a lot of different churches, and the services change depending upon who the pastor is or what part of the country you're in. But the Catholic Church seemed, I think, just incredibly sacramental. I was really kind of blown away by the whole Eucharistic prayer and just that whole process of seeing wine and bread turned into body and blood. To me, that was, it was really, there were a few times that I had to sit in the back of the church and I'm like, why are people not like standing on the top of the pews? Like, this is amazing. But that didn't happen until my Palm Sunday experience. I ended up going to church by myself that day. Scott and I, for whatever reason, that's my husband, he wasn't at church that day. And so I was by myself, and I got to experience it just through my eyes, not looking at anybody else. And that did it. That Palm Sunday Mass was the turning point for me.
Has that, maybe the freshness of it and the attractiveness, has that faded over time, or has that stayed with you?
I think it's actually become greater as we've seen our children start to take roles in serving in the liturgy, particularly when our oldest 2 boys began altar serving. That really, I mean, as I saw them up on the altar, preparing the altar and doing it with such reverence, we were blessed to have a priest who loved the liturgy, and I think in turn showed them how to love being an altar server. That sort of sparked a new side of the church and a new side of the liturgy, because now that was my kids that were participating in the liturgy. And I think that continues to reveal itself. They've all chosen different ministries, so to see them serve gets me excited for them all over again, because I remember what it was like to first see the Mass. And it's my hope that my kids will never see it as mundane or something that we do every Sunday, but that they really see the beauty of it. And I think them serving in it has been beautiful for them, but it's also been beautiful for me as their mom to kind of reinvigorate why it is I became Catholic.
where do you think that lack of engagement comes from? This, you mentioned sitting in the back and say, why isn't everybody getting excited about this? And I think that is more the typical Catholic experience is this is just something I do. We're going through the motions. We're doing this because of some kind of obligation, but there's not that enthusiasm that you have and that you're trying to pass on to your kids. Where does that lack of excitement come from?
I think, Kyle, it becomes very observatory. Like, I'm going to go to Mass and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to observe all the things that are happening. When we were growing up Protestant, we were fully engaged because we were in teeny tiny little parishes and everybody had to do stuff. So we didn't just go to church. We went to church, but then we also served in a lot of different ministries. And church only happened because we all participated. So it wasn't an observation. It was full-on participation. And I think that's how I came into the Catholic Church is, yes, I loved what I was observing and seeing in the Mass, but my Protestant background would not allow me to just sit in the pew. And I think that's the disconnect, is I think Catholics see it as, I'm going to check this off my weekly, yes, I went to Sunday Mass on occasion or maybe every week, and that's it. That's the end of my engagement in church. And I hope that people see that the deeper that you dive into your faith, obviously in the Mass, but the deeper that you dive in building that foundation of your faith, it gets you excited all over again, but it also helps you develop the key, which is an encounter with Christ. I mean, people have to have an encounter and they have to have a relationship. Otherwise, you're just watching somebody do Mass. So
how do we convince people of that?
Maybe get a few more Protestants in the pews that have been there before. I think it's witness. Mm-hmm. I think it's, if you love Christ and you surround yourself with people that feel the same way, then I feel like it's an obligation that I have to share my faith in a very tangible and a very real way with the people that I'm around. When we go to events at church, we're always inviting other people to come with us. And I think that our parish has done a really beautiful job of having events that aren't necessarily specific just to our parish community, and that we invite the community. I think when people can get a taste of that, and then they can experience the sacraments, sometimes by observing, and then also when they become Catholic, fully experiencing them, I think that's when you finally get engaged. But I think the key is it's an encounter. Sometimes it happens in retreat. Sometimes it happens at adoration or a praise and worship night or through an Advent or a Lenten mission. I mean, I think you just have to give people an opportunity to keep meeting Jesus, and hopefully they'll want to encounter him in a deeper way. I wish there was an easy way to do it. I don't think if there was, we'd all be millionaires by now, right? Because we would have coined it and figured it out.
Yeah, right.
But I think it's about relationship.
We're talking with Kathryn Whitaker. Her book is Live Big, Love Bigger, Getting Real with Barbecue, Sweet Tea, and a Whole Lot of Jesus. And in it, you tell your faith journey. You also talk about your family and raising your kids. And what has been the biggest struggle in raising your kids in the faith, in the Catholic faith, so far, at least?
I think our biggest challenge is the advent of the internet and social media. It does great things. It connects them in great ways, but it also disconnects them from the things that are real in their lives. And as a mom of now 3 teenagers, I think that's our challenge, is to get them to put down the electronic device and engage with the people in their real life, because we were just talking about that. I mean, that's how you encounter Christ, is when you engage in real life. Mm-hmm. And it's a balance, because I want them to evangelize, I want them to live their lives, and I want them to share that digitally and online, mm-hmm. but then I also want them to do it in their real life. And it is probably the single most difficult thing I think we do as parents, is helping them navigate that, but also helping them really deepen and dive deep into their faith.
Well, and you tell a story of not just the kids needing to be maybe cutting back on social media and computer use, but also us as parents. And I think you had the Instagram pulled up in the kitchen, and your kid accused you of loving your computer more than your kids, kind of a thing. Yeah,
like caring. He said, "Mom, I think you care more about people on the internet than you do about us."
Right.
Ouch. How
quickly did you want to dismiss that of like, no, this is important, I'm trying to catch up with things, and I'm also giving you attention? And how much of it were you like, oh, you're right?
Well, at first I was mad at him. I'm like, how dare you say that? And then reality sunk in, and I thought, oh man, I just wanted to put down my phone and never pick it back up again. I felt the guilt and the example that I was setting for my kids, that really cut deep. And I wasn't frustrated or angry at him. I was frustrated and angry at myself that I had let this thing become a habit and my default. Instead of seeing it as a tool, I was using it as a crutch. And boy, that stung pretty deep, but it was okay. I mean, sometimes I always say my kids are my path to heaven because they sanctify me and point out my faults every day.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that because they keep me honest.
Right.
And on that day, they kept me really honest.
What do you say to a kid after you realize, oh, you're right, and I should be paying more attention to you? Do you apologize? Do you try to turn it into a lesson of some sort?
I think we've just learned to apologize. I think, Kyle, I've probably apologized to my kids more as an adult that I remember hearing from my family, and I think maybe it's a generational thing, but it's hard to admit that you're wrong, and it's really hard to admit that you're wrong to your kids. But it's becoming easier for me to admit it because I don't want my kids to see me as someone who's trying to be perfect or someone who's not even real. Like maybe you're one way to your friends, but you're really this way with us at home. I want them to know that I make mistakes and they're going to make mistakes. And I want them to see that forgiveness is a really important part of a real relationship. And that power of forgiveness has been very powerful in our family. It has not come easy. There have been a lot of long discussions and a lot of late nights of these are my deficiencies and I messed up and I'm really sorry. So how are we going to move forward? But it's also given us a greater level of trust and respect between parent and kiddo. And now that we've launched one to college, I think those discussions certainly have paved the way for us to start to have an adult relationship with our son.
As someone with a relatively large family by today's standards, what kind of reactions do you get from people?
Oh my gosh. I could write a book just on crazy things that people have said to us.
I would read that book.
Oh my gosh. So many crazy. Well, I mean, most people think that we're crazy, but if I had money for every time someone said to me, oh, I always wished that we'd had more children, or that's so beautiful that you have a big family. I mean, and people they won't say that outright, like in front of their friends, but I've had so many people pull me aside and say, and those always counterbalance the crummy things that people will say and the looks that we get and how many times they're counting how many kids we have. And I'm like, we don't even have that many. It's only 6. But I've really been touched by the people that have pulled us aside and told us that they wish that they had more, or that they're grateful that we had children and we have so many and that we're living our life the way that we are. That's been a real boon to the spirit on the days that you get the really crummy comments.
Sure. All right. Well, there's a lot more to talk about, but people are going to have to read it in your book. So where's the best place for people to get it?
So people can go to Amazon. You can go to Ave Maria Press, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, all the places where books are sold. You can also go to my blog at teamwhitaker.org.
All right. Again, it's Live Big, Love Bigger, Getting Real with barbecue, sweet tea, and a whole lot of Jesus. It's a lot of fun. So check it out. Thank you so much, Kathryn Whitaker. This is great, and I think people are going to really enjoy it.
Thanks so much, Kyle. I appreciate it.